everyone. This is Abhishek Nakhate from Zoom Abroad for you. And I'm fortunate to have our former Minister of Higher Education, Bill Rammel, with us today. And he would be sharing insight towards the changing landscape of higher education sector and how could it be changed in the favor towards betterment of higher education sector, what the university leaders might be thinking about or planning towards for a better change in next 5 years. So welcome, Bill.
Abby, good to see you.
Great. Let's get started with the first question.
For a variety of reasons, particularly the impact of COVID, that's been turbocharged now, and there are going to be significant changes over the next 4 or 5 years. Firstly, some good news, the demographics, the numbers of 18 to 21-year-olds, and I'm talking from a UK perspective, are going to be increasing for the first time in a number of years. So there's more potential recruits out there on the home front. I think we're going to see probably a recovery in international student numbers, with the exception of those within the European Union, and I'll come back to that later on. It's not certain, but I think there are indications that confidence, particularly post-vaccine in the UK, will bring more international recruits. I think there's going to be continuing governmental pressure through the Office for Students around student outcomes, particularly around dropout rates, that universities are going to have to respond to. Similarly, from the government, we are at some stage get the response to the ALGA review, and I think it's possible that that will lead to a reduction in the overall fee level, or at the very least, no inflationary increase, and that is effectively a cut through income that universities are going to have to manage. Similarly, in terms of national policy challenges, we've recently seen the Further Education and Skills White Paper with a stronger focus and role for further education colleges, and particularly developing their offer at the level 4 and 5. And that's going to create some competition for universities. I think, sadly, both from the government and the media, we're going to see a continued questioning of the value of higher education. I think that's wrong. The evidence is very strong for the value of higher education. But, universities are going to have to work on demonstrating value, demonstrating positive outcomes for students going through university. Brexit, and I know we'll come back to that later on, will have a big impact on within higher education, on students and on partnerships. I think moving out of COVID, we're going to see some enduring impact. So, for example, we've seen a significant expansion of online teaching and support. I think that is likely to continue. I think the default first option for students is still likely to be face-to-face teaching, but the choice that comes with online teaching and support, and universities are going to have to focus on that. I think institutionally, I agree with the recent analysis by the Institute for Fiscal Studies, where institutions that were weak financially before COVID are likely to be further weakened. And that is a challenge that they're going to have to face. On the positive side of that question, the government has at long last started to edge away from its rhetoric that institutions will be allowed to go to the wall if they don't succeed financially. And there is talk of government support, whether it's through mergers or other mechanisms. I think in terms of people coming through higher education, on the back of the relatively recent new postgraduate loan scheme, we're likely to see an expansion of postgraduate education. There's anything coming out of COVID, because post COVID, with the uncertainty in the jobs market, I think many students will say, well, I've gone through my first degree, the financial support is there, let's get even more qualified and take a postgraduate qualification. I think, again, post-COVID, the need for consistency of support, mental health support for students, targeted mentoring, and help with exams. We'll have had 2 cohorts of students who haven't taken formal examinations at A-level. They're going to need, for those universities that do test through exams, support to enable them to do that. We've also got, probably much closer than it's been in the past, the possibility of post-qualification applications. And you know, I think that may become a reality in the next 3 years or so. And therefore, with all of those factors, the importance of universities using technology in a whole variety of ways, but particularly through recruitment and admissions, is very much going to come to the fore. The use of data to determine the best applicants, the highest quality applicants, the use of artificial intelligence. And I know, Abby, that's an area that you've been working on.
That's right, Bill. So rightly said, there are so many reforms or the changes that we can expect in next couple of years, including PQA, and particularly in the COVID situation, as compared to the other countries, UK universities have shown a tremendous adaptive nature, and they have done really well. And kudos to the university leaders for that. But I think the scope of learning, especially in the competitive behavior, is to learn more from the data. I think the universities are underutilizing the data that they have. And if the universities would utilize that data to learn more about their students, like in any business, if you learn more about your customers better, you would be able to give a better customer experience. And here the universities are no exception. They probably have to learn more about learning about students' experience and delivering it. So use of artificial intelligence and the right set of technology would be really, really crucial to stand out in this competition.
Yeah, that's certainly going to be the case. It's good.
Perfect. So, Bill, the year 2020 and 21 has been a year of events, and especially the major event for the UK was Brexit, right? So how do you see Brexit impacting the higher education competitive landscape? What is your view on that?
Well, I mean, firstly, I want to reveal a prejudice. I still think that Brexit is the biggest act of national self-harm that the country has ever inflicted upon itself. And I think broadly, you know, we're going to lose access to markets, economic opportunities, connections, security, collective security and influence, and higher education is not and cannot be immune from that. What we've eventually got through the free trade agreement with the European Union is better than no deal, but I'll be honest, it's not hugely better than no deal. So specifically for higher education, there will be some continued collaboration at the research level through Horizon Europe. We're now going to have associated country status. I think the quality of UK universities' research will stand us in good stead. Against that, we know that as an associated country, you know, and you know, the competitive pressures of institutions and groups of institutions elsewhere within the European Union, their potential research participation in partnerships is going to be of a higher priority than UK universities. So I think that is going to be a challenge. Erasmus has gone. There's now going to be the Turing scheme. It's less than Erasmus, and I think that will have an impact on limiting student mobility. And you know, if you listen to the rhetoric of the government around wanting global Britain, well, you therefore need students to be studying and participating elsewhere in the world, and particularly in Europe, and that's going to be limited. For those students from elsewhere in the European Union starting a degree in 21-22, there's going to be no longer home student fee status and no fee loan. And that will, there's no way of, you know, avoiding this, I think, lead to a significant drop in recruitment from elsewhere in the European Union, although with the caveat, and I don't think this has been sufficiently highlighted, that EU nationals with settled or pre-settled status under the EU settlement scheme will have student support. But overall, it is undoubtedly going to be a loss of recruitment elsewhere in the European Union. I think as well over time, although there has been the settlement status scheme, I think we're going to see a slow drain of academics and staff who work in UK universities from the European Union. You know, in many institutions, 10, 15, 20% of staff are European Union nationals. I think over time that figure will reduce. The one positive is that I think with that impact, particularly on student recruitment from the European Union, negative impact, there's going to be a greater pressure to force the government to liberalise on international recruitment from outside the European Union. And I think, therefore, that political pressure and easing of some of the UKVI restrictions will, over the next 2 to 3 years, come to the fore.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you. That was an amazing analogy on the Brexit. So my next question, Bill, is about the shift of the competitiveness from the quantity of the students to the quality of the students. Because what we have seen from the statistics, the number of students is not less. So universities may not have to, in general, have to fight towards how many students can I get in my cohort, but then it's more about the quality of the students, because one student make approximately 5 applications, and it is about that good quality students choosing which university. So how do you see that shift is happening within the higher education landscape?
I think your analysis, Abby, is broadly correct, with the caveats that we've still got an absence or a broad absence of student number controls, and therefore competition for numbers, particularly in widening access universities, is still going to be to the fore. But I think the shift from quantity to quality was already in place, and I think the pressures in that direction will increase. So I talked earlier about government through the Office for Students really focusing on dropout rates in universities, and therefore universities are going to have to work hard, invest money, invest time to support students through that situation. And I think, you know, the need for traffic light early warning indicators of students who are not engaging, to then identify them and provide additional support to retain them, is going to be important. I think, again, in terms of quality, there's still going to be a need to broaden the social profile of students, and therefore, you know, how you ensure students from a widening access background come through, but then get good outcomes at the end of it. I think, although I've said I think there'll be some liberalising of the UKVI international recruitment regime, there's still going to be a need for universities to identify students who can get their visas in order to succeed. So that's going to be a focus of activity for universities. I think as well, you know, there's going to have to be a focus on good salary outcomes, graduate salary outcomes for students who go through the system. And I mean, I don't think a graduate salary is necessarily the best indicator of the value of higher education, but universities are going to have to focus on it, and therefore, you know, their ability to identify quality and potential to succeed at the degree level and then to move through and get a good graduate job is going to be to the fore. And I think all of those pressures will bring a greater focus on the universities who are best able to measure student quality and potential, their likelihood to complete, to succeed academically, to successfully obtain a visa. And those universities who do that the best are going to be the ones that succeed the most. So the focus on the most effective and efficient recruitment and admissions process will very much be at a premium. And, you know, there will be a much stronger focus by universities. And as we've talked just now, those universities that are innovative, that use data, that use artificial intelligence to identify the best quality applicants are very much going to be at the front of the queue in terms of student recruitment.
Thank you very much, Bill. And I completely echo with identification of the right quality at the very beginning gives that added advantage of time for the universities to identify the quality. And if in some way the universities can predict at the very beginning how the outcome would be, that could be a blessing for the universities and the
Mm.
competitive sector. And in the similar continuation, we see that we have talked about this competition is, of course, healthy because that promotes innovation. And at the same time, when the students are looking for a better student experience, how do you think the student outcome focused approach could be bring into the recruitment process, and which area, according to you, the university can improvise more to provide that best student experience?
I think since the inception of the National Student Survey in 2005, there has been a much stronger focus, rightly so, on the best possible student experience. And I think the competitive pressures that we've been talking about will increase that focus even more. So I think universities are going to have to do a number of things. One, we've talked about the impact of COVID and online teaching and support and blended learning to give students a choice in the way teaching and support is delivered, I think is going to increase. I don't think university is going to be able to turn the clock back on online support. I talked earlier about things like using technology to put in place, for want of a better phrase, a traffic light early warning system so that students who are not engaging and not attending lectures are identified and targeted for additional support is very much going to come to the floor. I think physical things on campus, and this has already been a focus for universities, but better investment and support through libraries, through student accommodation, through sports facilities, catering, and other things. Universities that prioritise those are more likely to be in receipt of student applicants. I think the focus on employability. So, and many universities are already focused on this, but doing even more. There's been a lot of focus on and extracurricular employability modules. I think increasingly employability being embedded into the core curriculum and modules will be very much coming to the fore. I think universities that invest in short periods of international student mobility. We talked about Brexit, the need, to genuinely put flesh on the bones in terms of becoming global Britain. Well, all the evidence shows that students who spend at least some time studying and living, even for short periods overseas, are much more likely to succeed academically and ultimately succeed in the jobs market. And I think universities that invest in that and do that will be very much to the fore. Catch-up support, exam support that I talked about previously, I think will be to the fore. And I think finally that focus on the recruitment process, and we've talked about it a few times, but the universities who recognise that recruitment and admissions is frankly part of the student experience. It's before you arrive at university, right the way through the university and afterwards, and using innovation, using technology to identify the best students, but to support them, to flag those who need additional support and other issues. I think that will be a feature of that evolving landscape. And through it all, universities who listen to the student voice, who put in place time and resource to engage with potential students who are on campus, and also after they leave university, and listen to what they're saying about the student experience and adapt their policies and practices as a result. They're going to be the universities that will most benefit and succeed, both for their own institutional benefit, but also for the benefit of the education they deliver to students.
Amazing. I think that was a wonderful advice. And I believe the university leaders are already thinking about how to inculcate within their strategy to marry technology. So I think in very layman's term, I would like to say the university leaders or the universities have to marry the technology within the whole process and incorporate that within the strategy so well that it becomes a integral part of it, not just as a tool, but also a support service. So thank you, Bill, for giving such a great insight on the changing landscape of higher education sector. And you have highlighted some of the important uh, changes that may come in the international student recruitment because of Brexit, the use of technology and data. And I think that is quite thought-provoking for many university leaders. And just the last one, if you can conclude probably in a sentence as a one-word advice, what would that be?
Focus on the students, their outcome, and the use of data to drive the best outcomes, whether it's through recruitment, through the degree course or postgraduate degree course, and afterwards are going to be the ones that most likely succeed for their students and for the institutions as a whole.
With that note, thank you very much, Bill, and hope you guys
Thank
would.
you, Abby.
Thank you. And hope you all enjoy this video and probably inculcate those strategy within your recruitment strategy or within the university's growth plan. So thank you very much for watching. If you have any uh, suggestions or desires to listen more about the higher education changing, please tune in. And this is Abhishek and Bill Rammel for you. Thank you very much.